Anno 117 Pax Romana is the kind of game that seems simple at first, until you realize how deep the mechanics are behind every decision. It's not enough to just build beautiful cities and trade. To dominate the Roman Empire, you need to understand the rhythm of the economy, the mood of the citizens, and even the value of each sea route. So, in this video, get ready because we're going beyond the basics. These are 7 advanced tips that will completely change the way you play and ensure that your empire not only survives, but thrives. When you start to delve into Anno 117 Pax Romana, you quickly realize that the interface can be a helping hand or a barrier, depending on how you use it. One tip I've found that really makes a difference is customizing the interface to get the most speed out of the game. Seriously, rearranging and adjusting the interface so that the essential elements are always at hand completely changes the way you play. For example, whenever I'm playing, I pull the interface pieces to the corners that I can reach quickly. This avoids that annoying feeling of hunting for the desired button in the middle of a bunch of stuff. There's also the thing about removing buttons that you almost never use, like upgrade. If you're like me and prefer to use hotkeys for these functions, it just gets in the way and takes up precious space. The quick bar is also an irreplaceable ally in this adjustment. I put the goods I use most often there, so when I'm in a hurry to build or reorganize, they're just a click away. This avoids having to open deeper menus and helps maintain the rhythm of the game, especially in moments when you play with time paused and want to plan everything calmly. The coolest thing about this customization is that everything becomes more intuitive. The most essential controls become naturally visible, without having to think twice to find them. This saving of a few seconds here and there may seem small, but in practice, it greatly speeds up your planning and decision-making flow, making the experience much more fluid and even less frustrating. For those who like to play Anno in paused mode, thinking strategically, this tip of customizing the interface becomes almost a necessity. It's that thing. It's not just about what you build or produce, but how you interact with the game. The easier this interaction is, the more you enjoy the creative and strategic side that the game offers, and the less time you waste just trying to navigate the screen. The Hall of Fame in Anno 117 is one of my favorite tips for those who want to get the most out of the game, especially if you like to customize and optimize your experience as a Roman governor. Accessing this system is simple. Just click on the governor's portrait and choose Hall of Fame and Accolades. There, you will find a series of achievements organized into categories, and completing each set of 9 achievements gives you extra fame points, which are essential to unlock permanent rewards. What enchants me the most is that each tier of the Hall of Fame offers something really useful. In Tier 1, you unlock extra goddesses, which can be decisive in balancing your city and ensuring prosperity. In Tier 2, powerful specialists appear, who can transform your economy or defense in a significant way. And if you go further, in Tier 4, there's the Woodland Rebirth, which gives an incredible boost to the lumberjacks in the prairies, making the early game much easier. But the highlight, at least for me, is Tier 5, the Triumphal Arch. In addition to being an imposing visual symbol, it brings a prestige bonus that can make all the difference when you are trying to impress allies or intimidate rivals. It is a reward that really shows your status as governor, and also helps to expand your influence on the map. What I always say is, don't leave the Hall of Fame aside. Even if you don't want to focus on all the achievements, it's worth checking regularly what is available and prioritizing the bonuses that make the most sense for your playstyle. Sometimes a specialist or an extra resource can be exactly what was missing to turn the game around in a difficult match. The Hall of Fame is one of those mechanics that make Anno 117 feel more alive and personalized. Each choice you make there reflects in your cities, and seeing the progress accumulated throughout the matches is a unique feeling. If you want to leave your mark as governor, this system is essential. And frankly, one of the details that makes me come back to the game the most. One thing I quickly learned in the game is the importance of researching paved roads as soon as possible. The moment you reach Tier 3 in the economic tree, unlocking these roads completely changes the way your city works. They are not just a visual detail or a luxury, but a pillar to optimize the logistics of your empire. What impressed me is how paved roads speed up carts, which reduces the need for many warehouses scattered around the city. This greatly simplifies the layout of your production and transport areas, allowing you to organize everything in a cleaner and smarter way. With fewer warehouses, there is room for other important buildings, and this helps a lot when expanding. In addition to the impact on logistics, paved roads extend the reach of markets and taverns, which is essential to keep your population happy and productive. Having this wider coverage means that you can maximize social benefits with fewer buildings, spending fewer resources and having a greater return. It's one of those upgrades that you don't think is so important at the beginning, but in the middle and end of the game, they make all the difference. Another point worth highlighting is the improvement in firefighting, health, and happiness coverage provided by the roads. This creates a kind of safety net for your city, preventing crises and improving the quality of life of the inhabitants. The better the environment, the more productive and satisfied they become, and this makes your expansion much more sustainable. In my view, the secret is not to postpone the update of these roads to the maximum possible. The return on investment is enormous, especially because it allows for more efficient and economical city layouts. If you want to play strategically and focused on optimization, prioritizing this technology makes your progress flow much more smoothly and intelligently in Anno 1.17.
Understanding production ratios in Anno 1.17 is one of those secrets that can transform your experience in the game. And learning the least common multiple, LCM method, helped me a lot with that. When you are dealing with complex production chains, those that have varying processing times, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute and 30 seconds, or even 2 minutes, everything can turn into chaos if you don't organize it properly. That's when this mathematical technique came in, to ensure that everything works smoothly, without bottlenecks or waste. What I like about the LCM method is that it forces you to think about production in a more scientific way, converting these times into minutes and finding a common multiple for them. In the classic example, you convert 30 seconds to 30 minutes, 45 seconds to 45 minutes, and so on, until you find that the least common multiple of the times is 360. This seems a bit abstract at first, but the magic happens when you divide this space to know exactly how many buildings of each type you need for the factory to work at maximum efficiency. When you put it into practice and align the proportion of 12 by 8 by 4 and by 3 buildings for the different stages of the chain, everything starts to flow like a well-adjusted machine. I've already lost hours trying to balance my production just by feeling, and nothing compares to the clarity and control that this method brings. In addition, using Control Q to check the productivity and idleness of the buildings is practically like having a superpower. You see where there is spare capacity or lack of action, and correct it before it becomes a problem. For those who are fans of Anno and like to delve into the details of the game's economy, mastering this technique is rewarding, and makes you feel more like a strategist than just a builder. It even makes you proud to see that complex chain working smoothly, without unnecessary stops and without excess production, which could hold back your progress. The LCM method transforms what seemed complicated into a manageable and effective process, perfect for players who like to optimize everything. In the end, this tip is not just about mathematics or numbers, but about thinking of the game as a living and interconnected system, where each piece has a role and a rhythm. I bet that, with this technique, your city in Anno 1.17 will gain a leap in quality. It's worth investing some time to learn and apply, because the return is immediate and visible in each stage of your empire that you build. This was one of the biggest game changers I've ever experienced, and I bet it will be for you too. One of the things that fascinates me most in Anno 1.17 is how the choice of gods and specialists can really change the course of your city. When I started playing, I kind of chose the gods randomly, but I discovered that prioritizing certain divinities makes a huge difference. For example, Ceres and Minerva are my favorites when I want to focus on knowledge and production, because they give that boost that keeps the city's gears turning more efficiently and intelligently. With Mars, I ended up understanding that he is better used on specific islands for recruitment,
not as a main god for the whole city. He is a tactical choice that pays off in more military contexts. But for the day-to-day of production and urban development, Ceres and Minerva shine more. This distinction makes me plan a little more before assigning each divinity, something that makes the game more strategic and less random. Specialists also require special attention. For me, the order of priority makes all the difference in the efficiency of the empire. When I prioritize labor, I feel that I reduce bottlenecks in production, since more efficient workers mean fewer delays. Then, I focus on knowledge to maintain innovation and the quality of constructions, followed closely by income, health, and belief. This hierarchy helps me to balance growth without giving up the necessary support to keep the people satisfied and productive. Another tactic that I use a lot is to dedicate specific islands to the local divinities. This not only maximizes the global bonuses I receive, but also gives me a clear focus for the development of each archipelago on the map. Organizing this division of territories for the gods makes management easier and yields that extra bonus that can be decisive in more advanced matches. In the end, this approach made me realize that Anno 117 is not just a matter of building and expanding, but of thinking about the details that support this growth. Choosing the right gods and prioritizing the specialists in the correct order makes the process more fluid and strategic. It's one of those fine adjustments that, when mastered, elevates the game to another level, something that really captivates me every time I play. One of the features that changed the way I play was the use of advanced multi-island statistics. At first, I got lost with the analysis of each isolated island, but when I discovered that Control Q opens a powerful panel, and that with Control Click you can analyze several islands at the same time, everything became clearer and more organized. This global view gives you absolute control over how your empire is working as a whole, not just at the tip. What really impresses me is the power to sort these statistics by profit or productivity. When I sort by profit, I can easily identify which goods are really generating a return for me, after deducting costs, which is essential to focus my effort on what is worth it. Sorting by productivity shows me where I have idleness, revealing points where buildings are stopped or underutilized, an alert that avoids waste and bottlenecks. Another thing I learned is the importance of always selecting all the islands in the panel for a complete diagnosis. Only then you see the bottlenecks that may be happening between the islands, such as an excess of production in one and a lack in another, which hinders the harmonious growth of your empire. This detailed analysis is the basis for me to plan expansions and reallocate resources intelligently. For me, this tool is like a complete scanner of my empire, which avoids unpleasant surprises and gives me the power to act before something locks up or causes damage. It's amazing how a seemingly simple function, when explored in depth, can become the heart of my strategies. This made my game evolve from building without thinking to a focused, almost surgical management. I highly recommend for those who play Anno 117 to pay special attention to this feature and use it frequently. In my case, it became routine to open this panel and do this analysis, because it brings not only numbers, but valuable insights to make much more accurate decisions during the match. Without a doubt, it is one of those tips that elevate your control and mastery of the game to another level. One of the features that really surprised me was the possibility of downgrading buildings, something that I didn't imagine would be so useful until I started using it in practice. Holding Alt along with U, the upgrade tool, to downgrade, is a brilliant idea that brings a lot of flexibility to the game. I like to think of it as a way to correct courses without having to destroy everything and start from scratch, which saves time and precious resources in my gameplay. What I liked most about this mechanic was how it allows me to rebalance the labor of my empire when things are not flowing properly. Sometimes I exaggerate in upgrading the buildings, and then the labor becomes scarce or unbalanced, causing that cascade effect of problems. With the downgrade, I can adjust these negative parameters without having to make radical changes. It's like a fine adjustment that brings production back to the ideal rhythm. In addition, this tool is excellent for recovering materials, especially in situations where you have updated roads or buildings more than you needed. I often find myself with super updated structures that don't bring as much benefit as the cost they generate, and the downgrade allows me to return to simpler and more economical versions, recovering resources that can be better used in other areas of the Empire. Another point that I value a lot is the possibility of pausing the game to plan all this without haste or loss of time and money. In the heat of the game, several decisions need to be made quickly, and being able to take some time to think about the best way to downgrade certain buildings makes all the difference. This makes the game more strategic, more under control, and less stressful. In general, the downgrade in Anno 117 has become one of my favorite tools to keep the Empire in order. Knowing that I don't have to be stuck with past choices, and that I can always adjust my progress gives a sense of freedom and autonomy that is difficult to find in games of this genre. If you haven't used this feature yet, it's worth experimenting, because it will save your time and resources several times.